You know that sound, right? That sharp, satisfying click of the striker hitting the coins on a carom board. It's a sound you hear in homes and clubs all across India. But behind this game we all love, there's a wild story of administrative chaos. What if I told you that the official national body in charge of carom, well, it isn't actually recognized by the Indian government? Yeah. Let's unpack the very curious case of the All India Carom Federation.
So let's just get right to it. Is India's National Carom Federation officially recognized by the government? You'd think, with millions of players, the answer would be a simple yes, right? But it's not that simple. The real answer pulls back the curtain on the messy, fascinating world of Indian sports governance.
The short answer is a big, fat no. The All India Carom Federation, the AICF, is not on the government's official 2024 list of recognized sports bodies. And look, this isn't just some recent typo. It's the result of years of legal battles and administrative drama. To really get how this happened, we need to understand the rules of the game. Not carom, but the game of how sports are governed in India. Okay, so to figure out why the AICF is on the outs, we first need to know who the referees are. In Indian sports, two key government bodies call the shots, and they have very different jobs.
So let's talk about the rules of the game. We need to know who's who in Indian sports governance. To understand why the Carom Federation is in this mess, you have to know who the two main players are at the government level, and they play very distinct roles.
So check out this division of labor. On one side, you've got the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, or MYAS. Think of them as the regulator, the ultimate authority. They're the ones with the power to grant or take away official recognition. Then, on the other side, you have the Sports Authority of India, or SAI. They're the promoters. Their job is to develop the sport, support the athletes, and manage training centers. So put simply, MYAS decides who's officially in charge, and SAI helps them get the job done.
So how does MYAS make these big decisions? Well, they've got an official rulebook, the National Sports Development Code. And this thing is not optional. It lays down the law on stuff like fair elections, term limits for officials, and just good governance. Now here's the kicker. If a federation breaks these rules, it can lose its recognition. And you guessed it, that's exactly what happened to the AICF. So we know the key players, and we know the rulebook. Now let's see how the game went so wrong.
This brings us to a timeline of pure turmoil. Seriously, the story of how the AICF lost its official status is packed with court battles and administrative whiplash. It wasn't just one thing, but a whole cascade of events.
Just look at this timeline. It's an absolute roller coaster. In late 2017, they get conditional recognition because of a court order. Things are looking up. But just 2 months later, the Supreme Court steps in and forces the government to yank it back. Fast forward to March 2019, and they get this tiny 3-week-long provisional recognition, basically just so athletes could compete. But after that window shut, nothing. From 2019 all the way to today, the AICF has been totally de-recognized.
So what started this whole mess? What was the trigger? It all goes back to the Federation's elections in 2015. The government took one look, and their conclusion was clear. These elections were a sham. They were not fair, not transparent, and they broke the rules of the sports code. This single internal failure is what kicked off years and years of instability.
All right, this is where the story gets really interesting. You'd probably assume that if the Federation is derecognized, the sport is too. But that is not what happened here, and that created this strange situation that we're calling the recognition paradox.
And here it is. This is the smoking gun. This is the official list from the ministry's website for 2024. You can search all you want, but the All India Carom Federation is just not there. This is the ultimate undeniable proof of its current status.
And this table right here makes the paradox crystal clear. The Federation, the AICF, is not recognized. Big red X. But the sport of carom itself, it is recognized. The government of India is still on board with the game, and this is an absolutely crucial distinction.
This quote from our source material just sums it up perfectly. The government's problem isn't with the sport of carom, it's with the management of the AICF. And this is why carom players can still be eligible for government jobs under the sports quota. The government recognizes their achievements in the sport, even if it doesn't recognize the body that organized the tournament where they won. So, the big question is, what does all this administrative chaos actually mean for the players on the ground?
So, let's talk about the future of Indian carom. Because this isn't just a paperwork problem. This lack of recognition has real, serious consequences for the athletes. But the good news is, there is a clear path for them to get back in good standing.
For the players, the impact is huge. They lose out on government financial aid. Their access to elite Sports Authority of India training centers gets cut. There's this massive uncertainty over whether the medals and certificates they work so hard for will even be considered valid for jobs or awards. And without a recognized national body, how can you have a unified program to develop the next generation of talent? You really can't.
So how does the AICF fix this? The path to getting reinstated is actually pretty clear. It all starts with step 1, and it's the most critical step of all. They have to conduct new elections. And these can't be a repeat of 2015. They have to be fair, transparent, and totally compliant with the sports code. Only after legitimate leadership is in place can they move to step 2 and formally reapply to the ministry. And if they can prove they've cleaned up their act, they can finally achieve step 3, regaining their spot on the government's official list.
And that leaves us with this final, critical question. The AICF failed to follow the rules, and the government acted by enforcing its code. But stuck in the middle of this administrative battle are the athletes, the players whose careers and dreams are just hanging in the balance. It really forces us to ask, when a federation falters, who ultimately steps in to protect the players and the game itself?